Anyway, we are right here on the shores of the North Saskatchewan River for Do You Know Jack, your host Jack Antonio on the line. And of course, with me here today is the man and myth and legend himself. We're talking to Stevie D, producer extraordinaire and now solo artist. How are you doing, man?
Hey, how you doing, Jack? Hi, everybody.
So listen now, I'm sure you've been getting this question a lot. So, I guess I'll start by pitching a softball. But I mean, through your entire career as a producer, you've also been a musician, if my memory and information serves me correctly. Am I right?
Yes, that's correct.
So, I mean, I guess the operative question just to start out is, through that entire career, how did the planets end up coming in line so that you could release this brilliant record torn from the pages and feature, I'm assuming your good friend Corey Glover?
Yeah, thanks, Jack. I appreciate that. That's an excellent question. Maybe it's some sort of a divine intervention in some regards. It all the planets aligned at this point in time for this record to come out, and the key element being for me being that Corey uh, sang all the songs.
Right.
So that is part of the perfect alignment. I guess some of it has to do with the when the I began writing the material, which was around 2009,
Yeah.
and in 2010 I lost my mom unexpectedly,
Oh my goodness.
and that kind of just triggered creative, emotional uh, onslaught of music. Um, Several years after losing my mom, and the record just became a theme, of my life, and having Corey narrate it, if you will. And just became a perfect musical scenario for me at that point.
Well, now, what's the nature of your relationship with Corey? I mean, I'm assuming that you have met him somewhere in your travels.
Yeah, yes, late '90s. A mutual friend of ours, Mike Ciro, Michael Sorencione, a very, very good friend of Corey Glover's, and Corey Glover's musical partner on Corey's solo efforts. Mike and I go back a long way, and Corey was recording his first solo record, Hymns,
Uh-huh.
and there were two rock tracks on the record. The record was is very diverse. Corey branched off into other areas. Obviously known for Living Color, and obviously Cult of Personality, and
Yeah, yeah.
Open Letter, and a bunch of other great songs. But Corey is also his talents and his versatility spans the musical gamut. And his solo record was had a good amount of, I would say, soul and R&B on it. But there were two rock tracks, and I guess Corey and Mike came to the conclusion that they could probably get a more raw representation of those two rock tracks. So Mike recommended, let's go have a meeting with my friend Steve over at his studio
Yeah.
and see about maybe re-recording those. And that's how I met Corey. Mike brought him here, and Corey felt like it was a good idea, so we
Yeah.
proceeded to re-record two of the songs on his first solo record.
Right, right. Well, now, just thinking out loud here, I mean, you mentioned how the planets were in line for you to, release this record, I guess just a few weeks ago, right? I mean, I think this thing came out on September 6th.
Yes.
I mean, so now thinking about Corey now, I mean, what makes him the right guy for the job to, do that narration of your life? I mean, obviously there's some pretty emotional tracks on here.
Yeah. Well, geez, I mean, it's just the marriage of the way I write and the way, and Corey's God-given abilities. again, you mentioned emotional, and Corey just captured the spirit of every track, and whether it was the ballad, which, was a very emotional track, and then the high energy stuff, which, just Corey embodies vocally and emotionally, everything I could ask for in somebody who was singing something that I wrote. And gosh, he's so versatile, Jack.
Yeah.
He's so versatile. So
well, he's so underrated too, right? Fortunately / maybe to a certain degree unfortunately, he's sort of tied to one of heavy rock's greatest albatross tracks, right? Here's a guy that I've, been familiar with his work just in the last 5 or 6 years, even Cult of Personality aside. he is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, I would venture to say Corey is underrated because, when I turn on Channel 7 at 8:00 on a Thursday night, and I'm, just watching even one of these television shows, The Voice or American Idol, Corey should be a guest on one of those shows. How they have the guest singers, and in that regard, I would say Corey's underrated. His abilities are up there, at this point with the best of the best. So he definitely is underrated.
Yeah. Now, I know there's been a lot of discussion, of course, about Torn from the Pages, but I think, when you referred to the ballad, though, I think you were talking about Haunted, am I right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so now you mentioned that was a pretty, stirring and emotional subject matter. What were you thinking and writing about in that one, Steve?
Yeah, that song is for my mom. That's a tribute to my mom. And Corey, Corey also lost his mom not too long before I lost my mom, and just Corey singing that song in the studio. We both by the time he was finished, the two of us were in the studio. Both of us had significant waterworks.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about. You know what I mean? That's it. That's what music is all about, and art. Just moving your emotions one way or the other. And, obviously seeing Corey have it hit him the same way it hit me. And at that point in time, that just, can't describe what that means, cause Corey's a hero of mine. Corey, I grew up listening to Living Colour. They were top of the food chain music on my record player, for, many reasons. And here is a guy that I idolize, singing my song. And so that's a beautiful thing, is from when you're a lifer in this business and you can experience something like that, that's.
Oh, without question. Yeah. Now, was Haunted sort of the most difficult song for you personally to record in the studio out of all of these tracks, Stevie?
Let's see. I wouldn't say I'm not so sure that's the case. I think it was the most moving, and I even the string section, I put the strings on that track, and even that session, I have some iPhone video of the string players just rehearsing the string part without the music, and then I had a session with the background singers. I brought in 4 very high level vocalists to do the ad libs and do the backup vocals on the track. So, it was just, that track was how can I put it? that track alone was a project, you know, much less the rest of the record. So in that regard, I would say maybe, yes, you're right. It might have been the most difficult because of everything that went into it. So,
from an artistic perspective though, where does it sit in terms of the other ones?
It's interesting that track went through some modal changes. Like if I was to play you the original chorus, that track and some other tracks on the record also went through some significant metamorphosis where I had to go in and do substantial surgery. But that particular track, originally, the chorus, the downbeat of the chorus was just a straight ahead F major. And once I started bringing the strings in, matter of fact, I think once I was putting the string arrangement together, it turned out that the whole complexion of the chorus changed based on what I did with the first chord. I turned it into an F major 7 to an F major. The first two beats would be an F major 7, and the second two beats would go to F major. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah. I was just thinking of the chord in my head as you were explaining.
If you listen to it, you'll hear like a movement on the downbeat of the first chorus where it goes, bum, bum, it goes up a half step.
Yeah.
And it changed the whole complexion of the way the melody sat over the downbeat of the chorus. And what's the most important part of the song is the downbeat of the chorus. So that little change made such a difference in the way the melody came across on the downbeat of the chorus. And the strings do it. I had to like have the piano player redo the piano, and I said, Shy, I need you to redo the piano, but I only need the first the downbeat of the chorus. The rest of it is exactly the same.
Yeah. Well, so, now, as you're describing this whole process of quote unquote surgery to the songs, I mean, this sounds like you're pretty meticulous. When it comes to mixing and putting tracks together, a typical thing is, an artist wants a producer to produce the record because they're willing to go in and make those changes. But it sounds like you were pretty, maybe ruthless would be the wrong word, but you were willing to take your own art and your music and objectively look at it, to kind of get outside of it a little bit and make those changes, it sounds like to me.
Ruthless is a great word. Did you say ruthless?
I did, yeah.
Couldn't describe it any better. When you're in the thick of it, there's nothing on this planet that's more important than being in the moment of what it is you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
And ruthless. Ruthless is a great word because we go in deep, we go in deep, and we don't come back out until we find what we're looking for,
Yeah.
So, yeah, man. It's pretty, it's like, your grandmother making, dinner for the family. She's pretty ruthless in that kitchen.
Yeah. Well, is this kind of how you learned your craft? Because I think you've worked under some pretty great producers in your day and in your time doing what you do.
It's a combination of, what we're born with, the kind of drive and the kind of enthusiasm for what we do. It's a combination of that and being open to learning and working with people you can learn from and that are willing to teach you also and and share their secrets and share their expertise, and once you put all that into the soup, you can come out with some pretty spectacular results.
Yep. So what's the biggest secret to production that you're willing to share?
It's an excellent question, and Rick Derringer once said in a quote, the best thing you could do as a producer is leave it alone. If it does, leave it, don't do anything if nothing needs to be done. Let the artist you're working with, when you're producing, and in my mind, it's very important not to, whatever it is you're producing, it's very important not to make it a Stevie D record. If I'll just use my name for example, if I'm producing an artist, it's so easy to start suggesting all these ideas that you would maybe do on your own music, but that's really not the best approach. I think the best approach is to put yourself in a place where you come up with the best results for that artist.
Sure. Yeah.
So that it keeps their integrity intact and it keeps them honest, and you're basically taking what they're doing and bringing it up to the highest level possible. So I mean, I think that's an important concept for going into being a producer. I think that was your question, right, Jack?
Oh yeah. It was like, I mean, you've obviously learned a lot in your time, and just, what's the biggest secret or most important aspect of just doing what you do. Yeah, that's basically the gist of it, I would say.
Yeah, step out of the way, let the artist flourish, and also it's very important to make people comfortable in the studio.
Now, did I read somewhere that you've worked with Cyndi Lauper? Is that, is that correct? Now what record did you work with her on? Because, maybe not so big a secret, but I mean, I'm a huge fan of hers, because I mean, that was the music of my youth. Like when I was first starting to, collect records, a great record like She's So Unusual was just coming out right around 83, 84.
Yeah, I worked with Cyndi and 2 sessions at a studio in Somerville, New Jersey. She was working with Frankie Previtt. Frankie Previtt. Do you remember Frankie and the Knockouts? The band Frankie and the Knockouts. Frankie wrote Times of Our Lives and Dirty Dancing. He was one of the main writers on those 2 songs in the movie Dirty Dancing.
Right.
So they were working together, and basically we just did pre-production on a couple of songs. For, I guess, honestly, it might have been the record that you mentioned. It might have been. I'm not even sure which. I have it on my discography, but we did 2 sessions. Phil Ramone was there, the producer. Yeah, Phil was there just as a friend. I remember him standing, as I was tracking Cyndi's vocal, and Phil was just leaning on the board, looking over from the back of the board, and Cyndi had at one point said, "Are you using a compressor? Are you using a compressor on me?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Yes, but very lightly. Unplug it." And Phil looked at me and he just kind of said, "Yeah, I think maybe just ride the fader, as we were tracking, just ride the fader. If she starts to belt out, bring the level down a little. If she sings, low, less level, just bring up the fader, kind of ride it, sometimes you use a compressor for the sound of it. Sometimes you use it to control peaks. And in today's day and age, a lot of guys really like to use compressors because you don't want to go into the red when you're working in digital. It was a little more forgiving when you're working on a tape recorder.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was one memory I have of that session.
Yeah, she's got such a unique voice. I would imagine, part of the fun of working with a wide variety of artists would be just getting the chance or the opportunity to, be on the board when such an iconic voice is in session.
Yeah, Jack, she was heavyweight. I mean, I've recorded many great and talented vocalists, and Cyndi's right up there. She was right up there with the top of them. I mean, just a real high level talent, ad-libbing all day long, nothing out of tune, heart, tons of heart, just the real deal talent wise. Yeah.
Well, and she's never stopped being who she is too. Like I don't know if I can ever think of any, time in her career where she's compromised at all. She's just always sort of done what she does.
Which is, that's what defines a great artist, just honesty. And if you can be yourself and be that good, that's a blessing.
So moving forward, Stevie, I do know there was maybe I want to say an album release schedule, but are we going to get to hear some of these tracks live? Is there going to be a follow-up record eventually? Like, what's your next move there, bud?
Well, we just did our album release last Saturday.
Right. I remember seeing the day. I just didn't, write down the specific date. So that's my error there.
Yeah, so I'm working on some other dates now, and I'd love to put together some sort of a tour for the summer. Sooner would be great, but Corey's going out with the Bowie celebration.
Right. Yeah.
But I'm gonna be working on some more shows before he leaves, and then when he gets back. But I am working on. I'm writing material for the next record, and also working on I recorded the album release, so I'm working on a DVD. I'll have some live footage with some wonderful sonics to go along with it. I did
Nice.
a 4-camera shoot, so anybody who missed the record release will be able to see it.
Very cool. Well, Listen, Stevie, I don't want to keep you much longer, but I definitely will plug the record again. It is called Torn from the Pages. Just came out September 6th, so just a mere few weeks ago. And, by all accounts, Stevie, you've done some phenomenal work, in the realm of a performer and a musician, all the production stuff aside. I really did enjoy listening to your work. And of course, as we mentioned earlier on in this little chat we're having here, Corey is an absolute genius on the vocals in this as well. So I'm glad you guys were able to get together and put something out that's just so awesome.
Well, I appreciate you interviewing me, Jack, and it was great to meet you. And
Right
I appreciate you listening to the record. Yeah.
All right, man. Well, good luck and Godspeed, as they say. And thanks for being a guest on Do You Know Jack today, man. It was a pleasure and an honor on my part, sir.
Jack, I appreciate it. Can I just plug the website real quick?
Oh, yeah, I do. I was going to do that, and then it totally slipped my mind.
Yeah, it's www.tornfromthepages.com, and you could pretty much find out everything about the Stevie D featuring Corey Glover there. And
Right.
also, my website for my production and mixing and studio is www.soundspa.net. That's Sound Spa like jacuzzi and massage.net.
Right.
Thanks a lot for that, Jack. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries, man. We help each other out.
Yes, and you've done that, very huge help for me on this your end.
Right on. Well, you have a good day, man. Like I said, it was awesome chatting with you today.
You too, Jack. Be well. Good health.
All right. Have a good one.
Okay,
Bye-bye.